back with another season of the Cryptid Consortium. This is season 2, and it's going to be episode 1. And we've got an interesting topic tonight, Nick. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's called the Hopkinsville Goblin. That's near Kelly and Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Yep.
I just wanted to mention that this is our Cryptid Consortium in January 2024.
Yes.
We did have a little time away last year. We all had personal things we had to do, and we got them all accomplished. So we're back and bigger and better and badder than ever. And boy, do we have a lineup for you each week.
Oh yeah,
52 weeks in the year,
Yep.
and we're behind a couple of weeks now, but we'll probably give you at least 40 different cryptids.
Yeah, definitely.
There's our buddy Gary Spikes Jr. down below.
Gary, what's going on, brother?
After our little technical
guy, he's setting up the pictures and stuff. Anyway, let's get started on this one. This is a funny one. It's considered to be like not so much a cryptid, but maybe an alien humanoid, 3 to 4 feet tall. The earliest sighting was 1955.
Yep, August 21st, correct?
Yeah, August 21. It's supposed to have large eyes, like I said, 3 to 4 foot body.
Mm-hmm.
It is a glowing silver gray in color, even though out of this, what's called adventure, what happened was people started calling it little green men because of what happened. And there's a depiction that I'm going to be telling you about in a little bit. These little guys evidently had large yellow eyes, large pointy ears, a mouth, no nose,
talons, which really got me. That surprised me.
Yeah. That was odd. I do like the reaction of the people, though, immediately when these things came to the door. But they were also seen in the trees. They were on the roof. At the front door, looking in the front windows.
Yep.
Excuse me.
So they were seen all over this property.
All over, yeah.
Well, just want to mention for everyone out there, there were 12 witnesses to this whole ordeal.
That's right. It was two separate families. Well, let me give you the background on this.
Yeah.
Elmer Sutton, who was the owner of the farm, he met and befriended Billy Ray Taylor while the two of them were working at a carnival circuit. I guess it was traveling carnivals. That was the big thing at the time for entertainment. And after the carnival circuit was over, they went to their respective homes. And the Suttons invited the Taylors, to come visit. So Taylor and his wife and kids, they went to visit the Suttons and his family. And that was, like Jay said, August 21st, 1955. The two families were going to have a fun day, just having each other's company, having a cookout, play. And I mean, they were really into playing card games at the time. But instead, they had an encounter, which is more a chapter of UFOlogy than cryptozoology, actually, when I really checked that out, the entire story about this. Instead of a cryptid as we know it, it seemed to be more like space aliens. Now, this encounter popularized the term little green men, even though Sutton kept correcting people, saying that they were actually gray in color and they were like glowing.
Silver metallic glowing color.
Yeah. On that summer night, there was 12 people, like Jay said, at the Sutton farm. 7 were children, 5 were adults. Like towards nightfall, Taylor went to get some water from the well. Taylor then saw a round metallic object. Oh, there we go. He saw a round metallic object in the sky with a white light trailing behind it. Taylor went back to the house and he told everybody what he saw, but nobody believed him. Then a few minutes later, a creature appeared at the front door. It was 3 to 4 feet tall, large yellow eyes, pointy ears. The eyes were kind of separated almost to be on the sides of the head. Well, Taylor wasn't going to have anything of it. He grabbed the gun, as you can see in the picture here, and he let loose on the thing. He shot at it. But the creature just seemed to float away.
Yeah, and that was interesting.
I mean, that was really odd to me. I guess no blood, no alien blood, no screeching, no sounds, no nothing. It just floated away. Well, Taylor stepped outside and oh God, excuse me, people. And he was grabbed by a pair of claws, and somebody or somebodies from the inside the house grabbed him and pulled him into the house. At that point, the people inside, they barricaded the windows and the doors. They took out the guns and they started shooting at these aliens. At one point, they said there was about 15 of them in the trees, on the roof, near the window, out, on the front porch. I mean, this firefight, it just went on. I guess it was only one way, because the people inside the house were shooting out at the creatures, and every time they hit a creature, it was like Space Invaders. The creature would just, drift away. Yep. Which leads to, a possibility of certain types of answers, to what these things really were, but we'll get to that later. After about 4 hours, the Suttons and the Taylors ran to their car and they went to the Hopkinsville police station and reported the incident. The police responded to the Sutton farm, but not just the police. The town police came, the sheriff, about 4 deputies. The sheriff's men came. That was another 3 people. So that's 7. It got reported to Fort Campbell, a military base. They sent 4 investigators and a couple of military police officers. Even Kentucky State Police showed up. So we're talking about a lot of people on the Sutton farm that were checking this out. Long story short, what they did not find was any evidence of alien blood or alien body parts, flying saucers, or anything like that. What they did find was a shot up farm. I mean, it looked like somebody just went to war on this farm. I guess they must have fired hundreds of shots, through the windows, through the screens, through the doors. I mean, the barns were shot, everything, the trees, everything was just shot up. The authorities left, finally, after being there for quite a while. And like I said, the Army investigators, or could it have been Air Force investigators? What did you guys find out on that? Anybody?
I got military investigators that said military police.
What about you, Gary? Anything?
I didn't really concentrate on the initial reports because I know y'all would. I went on to the newer stuff.
Oh, okay.
Fort Campbell did send out people, and the biggest thing that they couldn't figure out was who contacted Fort Campbell.
Yeah, right. I couldn't find that out. You guys?
The only reason I know about that is from watching the documentary series on this. The local law enforcement didn't contact Fort Campbell. The people didn't contact Fort Campbell, and the people from Fort Campbell was there within like an hour of when the law enforcement was there. What I thought.
The only thing I did find out, and this is a possibility, is that they had the old-fashioned radios back then, and the lady that was their dispatcher, she knew somebody or had a relative. I mean, it was very sketchy. I couldn't pin it down, but I think she contacted Fort Campbell.
Okay.
And, I got to do some more research, diving into the research on that, because Fort Campbell seems to me to be a Army fort.
Yeah.
But somehow the Air Force got involved in that also.
Yeah. The only other thing I could think too is in the 50s, this was in the heart of the Cold War.
Right.
Yeah.
And monitoring the radio waves, because
Right.
was one of the local, I'm sure but what would Fort Campbell operatives want with AKA UFO sighting?
Well, they may have been contacted by the Air Force to go because they sent 4 investigators and a couple of military police.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the 12 people that were there at the farm. And then I'm trying to count it up, 4 state police, 4 deputies, that's 8, 3 sheriff, that's 11. Then you got the 6 from Fort Campbell. I
17.
mean, you got about 17 law enforcement plus the 12. I mean, you had a lot of people there that night.
Mm-hmm.
And they really covered the area. I mean, all the information I was able to look up. And by the way, for an obscure thing like this that happened, I went through a little bit over 100 different internet pages, which would equate to a loose leaf paper, about over 100 pages worth of information on this, and there's more. I just couldn't get
There's
through.
A ton out there.
This picture really does depict, though, some of the shenanigans that went on that night. But anyway, after about the authorities were there for quite a while. And after about 3 hours after the authorities left, it happened all over again. Yes. The aliens or cryptids or whatever you want to call them returned. But instead of shooting at them, this time the Suttons and Taylors just stood a vigil. And the creatures were gone by daybreak. So when the sun came up, the creatures went away. I guess they had enough of playing with the Suttons and the Taylors over there. But sorry, everybody. I have a sinus cold, and the more I talk, the worse it gets. Okay, so anyway, at about 7:30 a.m. that morning, the sun had been up for a while. The Sutton farm was besieged again. But this time, not by aliens, by investigators, by tourists who heard about it. I mean, word spread like wildfire. The local townsfolk who heard about it, of course, and of course, reporters. Newspaper reporters at the time would jump on anything. And for some reason, they were swarming this farm. And newspapers across the country picked up on the phrase "little green men." And poor Mr. Sutton, he got sick and tired of correcting them, saying they weren't green, they were gray. They got everything else, correct, but they didn't get the part about the color. But I mean, you guys all know, as growing up and everything, science fiction, little green men. Something I did want to mention was that in a research book that I have, and you can see some of the stuff behind me there, a research book I have called the Blue Planet Project, the BPP. They actually mentioned this in their book because the Air Force did take a interest in it later on, and I haven't really read through the entire Blue Planet Project book yet, but I want to get to it. And I believe if anybody's interested in that, that's a UFOlogy periodical. And I believe they also have a part 2 to it. And I believe they also have a part 3 stating the stuff that wasn't mentioned in the original 2 books. But if you're into UFOlogy, it's a must-have book, actually. Anyway, newspapers picked it up, and 2 weeks after the incident, the Suttons decided they were moving away. And I mean, they were frustrated by the ridicule that they had taken because of what had happened and everything. And a lot of people believed in it because back in the 40s and 50s, aliens were a big deal.
Huge.
Yeah. So anyway, coming forward to 2010, the town of Kelly, they started to have an annual festival called Little Green Men Day. So that must have, I mean, if the guy's not alive anymore, but Mr. Sutton would be turning over in his grave every time they had.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have costumes and rides and, you know, carnivals and all kinds of things going on there. A big, big, big tourist trade. Um, and something I did want to mention is they also erected a flying saucer, this big flying saucer the size of a car at the Kelly Station Park, which is only like a half a mile away from the Sutton Farm. That's so that no one would ever forget the first intergalactic battle, you know, on the planet Earth. So I mean, I guess it was exciting for that time and day, you know, and when something went on. Hey, Gary, any other pictures did you find?
Yeah. But I was going to say, I think you hit a key point right there. Very interesting of that time and day, and keep the mentality of this was right after, you know, the 1947 Roswell incidents in the 50s. This was also, you know, I hate to put it this way, but it's more mainstream right when the radio show The War of the Worlds came out.
Oh yeah.
You know, let's keep that in mind, and let's also keep the pop culture and the subculture and how would we say, the psychology of the area of Kentucky. Very, as we covered last season on the Kentucky Howler and some of the other man stuff, that the pop culture of that area is very superstitious. I'm just saying that to keep in mind when I start talking, when we come back on it later.
Well, didn't one of you guys mention that area, Kelly and Hopkinsville, is near LBL or something?
We'll get to that. Let me. I figure we'd cover that when I get into my. Where's my button here? Sorry, folks. I'm a little bit out of practice. We ain't done this in a few months.
You know what's interesting to me is the fact that makes me think this is more UFO and extraterrestrial than cryptid.
I think you got a
all these beings are the same size.
Yes. So this was from the sketch. This was one of the original sketches from one of the original investigators.
Right, and one of the little girls is
the little
person
girl
that put it out.
And I think we have to keep a point here. Nick, I'll let you get into the little girl here shortly. Now, was she the same night or was she later?
No, she was the same night. The girl the daughter that started the festival, she wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
No, she just grew up hearing the story, and she decided.
The original sighting was a little girl seeing them outside, and then she went in and got the parents, if I recall.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is from her description where they was talking about the claws and the size and everything. And once again, I want to reiterate, UFO, extraterrestrial, keep that in mind. There's very few actual drawings of this. I even went back and watched once again the documentary that they made on this, 2 seasons, and this is about all they come up with. You know, there's more evidence and more practical evidence of Dogman and Bigfoot than there is these guys.
Yeah.
And since you got me started, I'm gonna go say, so where in the heck does the caves come in? I don't get it. UFOs, they came from the sky, they was drifting off in the sky, and then they turn around in the series, they're saying, oh, they was in the caves.
In the caves,
I've done some pretty proctological studying from then up. I have not heard a single recent residential report of these guys since the 50s. There's been some like drunk guys in a pickup seen something in the woods, and it could have been these guys. There's been no other reports, no other police reports, it's just the one report.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to knock it because we do know that area is overgrown. Once again, being close to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I was stationed at Fort Campbell for a while. There was some funky stuff going on in the skies around Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Right.
So you're within 40 miles of the Bell Witch Caves. You're within 100 miles of, or not even that far, like 70 miles of the LBL, and everybody knows what's going on in the LBL. But that is all unrelated info. The only related case that I could find to this, there was a case in 2016 where a young man and woman was on a back road south of Clarksville, and they said something bumped to the back of the car, and when they turned around and looked, and it wasn't even credible, when they turned around and looked, they seen two hands come over the top of the car. Looked like a child's hands. I am not catching nothing any more of this since that report, and it was so sensationalized. This
seems to be a one-off.
Yeah, absolutely.
One and done, and that was it.
Yeah. Now,
maybe they scared them off. All that firepower they used that night. I mean, even the young boys grabbed rifles, according to some of the reports I had, and the 5 adults, the adult women grabbed rifles. Everybody was grabbing a gun, firing at these things.
And they would, like you said, Nick, they would do a flip in the air and float away.
Yeah, I just float away.
And that is more conducive of. Now, folks, I do understand that this is a cryptid show, but we thought we would bring this in. When we discussed this months ago, and I've been doing research on this for a while, and it's not really cryptid, but I think that I thought this was prudent to bring this in, that they run together in the same, you can put them in the same categories, but I don't think that this is a cryptid thing. I don't think these guys are living in caves in the series, and I was going to pull up the clip, but then I found out we're putting this on YouTube, and they would have gigged us for
copyright.
But in the clip, there's some young kids that was on this sensationalized series of investigations, and I don't know if y'all watched it, but I watched 2 seasons of it, and it was just a bunch of hyped up stuff. Well, this young couple, we seen them in the caves. Well, what caves? Well, those caves over there will take us to them. Oh, we can't take you to them again because we don't know where they're at. It's just, once again, it's to me, there's more creditable Bigfoot sightings in the area and more creditable Dogman sightings in the area than this. I would put this report and this situation on the same. We have more documentation of the Bell Witch cave and the Bell Witch farm than we do these guys, of the 1800s, which this is very close, within 20 miles of the Bell Witch. That whole area is so intertwined with bilateral cultural superstition that it from the 1800s all the way up,
Well, without having to do a ton of research on it, just doing as you can see in back of me, there's zoology. Just from what I know about zoology, that area has owls. Now, an owl would be at the lower end of the height scale. They said, 3 to 5 feet. 2, 3, 4 feet tall. All right, so about under 3 feet. I would say it could have been an owl. Some sort of an owl that wanted to protect its home and all that, and maybe young, and some of these owls get a little aggressive in protecting their homes. It's very, very possible. Now, part of the description is pointy ears. Owls have pointy ears. Part of the description is yellow eyes. Okay, well, they do have yellow eyes, and they are like they do seem kind of big at nighttime if you got a little bit of light hitting them too.
Talons.
And they can fly, short distances and float. So when they were shot at, maybe they floated away. As I've always said on other shows, my thing in cryptozoology is to prove or to disprove. And in this case, I'm looking at, it could possibly have been an owl, not having been there and checked it out, but that area is known for certain species of owl that are large.
Specifically, with the big ears like that would be
pointy ears, big eyes.
In that big of numbers, I don't see, because great horned owls at the most will run in pairs. They don't run in family packs. Now, the only other thing that I would
pretty
think
solitary.
Bats, bats up close will look like that with their big ears and stuff like that, but there's not no 3 foot tall bats in the United States. I think the biggest bat on the planet is the fruit bat, and it's got a wingspan of like 4 or 5 foot. And they can be 18 inches.
Well, you have the horse bat or the cow bat.
Yeah.
And that thing is about Well, they have one. They have one on the internet. It shows a guy had one that was about close to 4 feet
Well,
from
yeah,
its
but
feet to the top of its head.
that's still not what's the word? I'm home ranged in the USA, is it?
Well, remember back in the 1700s,
The whole
uh,
Jersey Devil thing, yeah.
people, yeah, but back in the
Mhm.
1700s, people from Europe, the rich people,
Yeah.
used to bring over tigers and panthers and all kinds of animals, exotic animals. And when they couldn't handle them any longer, they just let them loose. And
Yeah.
you never know. You never
But
know. I
with
mean, they
with
had
the
all kinds of
numbers,
weird animals back then that they brought here.
With the numbers we're setting here.
Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, I think, lived in New Jersey, and he had a whole slew of, you know, exotic animals.
With the numbers that we're seeing with that first initial report, though, it could be conducive of bats, and something had drawn I guess you call them a flock of bats in, because they'll come in numbers, you know.
Oh, big numbers, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the only alleged print from every bit of the series, and this came from the series. This is supposedly some of the people in 2016 from the other report, and they found this when they had the sighting of the pointed ear. I mean,
Right.
the hands. And folks, I'm just going to be honest. I am not going to. I'm going to say that is a 3-knuckle human print
looks like it to me.
that they've put in the ground. I'm
Well,
just
also they don't have anything to judge the size.
no.
You know, they didn't put a ruler, didn't put a shoe, a hat, a glove, or
No.
you know,
Pack
stick
of cigarettes, something.
something, anything.
The lack of evidence in this whole investigation, and that's the reason I loved this one, because it was more of a challenge. This was probably we found a lot of information, but nothing creditable, or I did, you know.
Yeah.
Of everything that we've done, I think we've done what, 14 episodes so far.
Yeah,
About that.
This has been the less documented,
Yes.
or recorded documented of it.
I mean, my God, the Mongolian death worm
had
got more
Produced more.
than
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that one, the Mongolian death worm, people were reporting it to the local, you know, the local warlords and everything, and the local kings saying, "Hey, we want protection."
Absolutely. And sightings over a period of time.
Yeah.
Here you have the initial report. And here's another thing that kind of threw me off when I was doing all this. I even went to UFON and MUFON and looked at the same time period of this report in 1955, and there was not any other coordinative, you know, like when you get up on the ridge in Pennsylvania and even New York, even the Whitehall Bigfoot sightings, and you look, there was UFO sightings in the area around the same time. Nothing here.
Oh.
Even I even got to looking at like local newspapers and stuff, trying to find local UFO sightings. It's nothing.
The only sighting was when Billy Ray and his girlfriend saw that craft outside. Correct?
Yes. And that was years later, though.
Was it? It was years later. I thought it was that night.
Are you talking the initial?
The 55 report.
I'm sorry. I thought you was talking about the 2016, couple that seen the. No, you're right. That was, they seen the craft and then had all that same happen at that farm that night.
Okay.
I actually have a friend that is very big into this subject, and I tried to get him to come on with us because he's like a book on this. But I even talked to him, and he even said that there's very little recorded documented history on this. He goes, there's a lot of alleged. The kid's name in 2016, his name was Billy also. On like a lover's lane thing, and their car shook, and they seen what they thought was this. But
because the original one was Taylor, Elmer Taylor. He went out to get some water from the well, and that he saw it by himself.
Yeah.
Then when he came back in, they were making fun at him, saying, "Oh no, you didn't see anything." And then suddenly, you know, the knock at the door, and there's Mr. Alien, you know, or whatever it was, and he wasn't fooling around though. He took out that gun and blasted at it. But I still can't just get over it. I mean, between the 12 people at the farm and the 16 plus investigators from all over, state police, local sheriff, deputies, God, you name it. The army people, the MPs, investigate. Wow, 28 plus people over there at that farm. That must have been one heck of a investigation they did there. And then the next morning, the poor people, they had to go through it again when the investigators all left. They kept a vigil. They were all scared. They barricaded their doors and windows again, but they didn't get attacked. And come 7:30 in the morning, you have reporters and tourists, local yokels over there, and oh my God.
That's an interesting point, Nick. You bring up how they, the next day they barricaded themselves in the house. So, they went through something that night. Something went on, whether it was aliens, owls, bats, whatever. They went through something.
Once again, 3 like minds from 3 different areas of the nation coming together, because we are spread apart now. The only, and my wife brought up this conjecture. I was talking to her. She goes, especially you talking about me, and Nick, as well as I do how things can happen. Wonder if maybe there was some substance to it and it got kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah.
That was 12 people from the farm actually saw this.
Absolutely.
And like I mentioned before, the 5 adults picked up rifles.
Yes.
The boys that were old enough to shoot,
they was physically shooting at something.
Yeah, the boys even picked up guns and stuff, and they were shooting. And I mean, come on, was this mass hysteria? No, they actually saw something from the reports that were made. And I believe it was Sutton's daughter, who wasn't born at the time, but I guess mom and dad told her about it when she got older, and I guess the brothers and sisters also told her. And something was going on there. Something was going on.
Yeah.
What went on, I can't tell you, but I'm going to have to dig out my book of the Blue Earth project and see what the Air Force said about it, because they didn't let it go.
No, that was the key point for me. Was people coming from Fort Campbell, the law.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the initial report didn't happen. I 100% believe that something happened that night. But there's nothing past that. To me gives me more credibility than anything, than people that keeps having reoccurring things happen on their property, and then of course the military thing, there is nothing in public record around Fort Campbell there's nothing of record. Of course, I've just got a general, they wouldn't give me no information from nothing, even with my clearances. But there's, in something that old, they're probably, even the law enforcement, the police records wouldn't have nothing. But there's nothing, I could find nothing offhand about that incident. And then once again, nothing happened in the area since. There's some, I don't know how to say it, there's some follow-up. I've always called it hysteria. Kids, we're going to go out and look for the Kentucky demons in these caves. And they find the tracks and stuff like that. But I've just, if I go into that area, I'm going to go to LBL, which we're planning on going to LBL anyway. And guys, if we do meet up at LBL, it wouldn't be nothing to swing over there. But I want to go to the Bell Witch Cave, and I want to stand the broom up and see if it'll stand on its own. To me, that's had more credible stuff happen to it than this here. But the initial report in 1955 to me is, I would say, very credible, because once again, that's also right about the time that we did have a lot of interaction on the side of UFO, not the size of cryptids, but on the side of UFOs. I mean, you had Roswell, and we've had multiple, in which we haven't covered that because we're not in the UFO culture that much.
Right.
But we're cryptid. But there, in that time frame, there was a lot of interaction, going on, even all over the country.
Sure. Yeah.
So in my analysis, I think it was I don't think it's mass hysteria with 12 people, and there had to be something going on for them to call in government officials.
Yes.
And them shooting. I believe that the initial thing happened, and I believe myself, I don't think it was cryptid. I think it was UFO. I think that there was a
Yeah, agreed. I
Agreed.
think it was UFO alien based.
I
yes,
think we're all in agreement on that one.
which makes it no less better, no less worse, no less. It makes it just as creditable, and it's just as cool as a Bigfoot sighting or something.
Sure.
But I don't see how 12 people and shooting. Like, I love how Nick put that. I wouldn't put that as mass hysteria. I don't think
No.
that a whole family would be. I could understand if it's 4 or 5 guys out camping and they was all drinking and
Drinking
got
beers.
fired up. But we're talking girl. The girl was at the age of like 5,
Yeah.
all the way up to full-grown men, multiple families.
Yep.
No mention of alcohol.
Mm-mm.
None. There's no evidence found of alcohol on the premises at all.
Yeah.
None.
In fact, that was something that was in the sheriff's report.
Yes. No
There was
evidence
no
of
alcohol. The one sheriff's officer suspected that they were all drunk, but the children weren't drinking, and neither were the adults.
No.
So just something I wanted to correct here in case I misspoke on it. It's the Blue Planet Project, in case anybody out there is interested.
Okay.
If you're a UFOologist, that's kind of a must read. Plus, they have the Blue Planet Project Lost Chapters.
Really.
And there's other books that are associated with it too. If you're interested in that. They also, oh God, there was another, Dulce Base. I don't know if you guys ever heard about Secrets of the Dulce Base.
Oh yeah, Dulce
Alien Underground.
I've been out there a bunch.
Yeah, that's part of the Blue Planet Project books. They've got quite a few of them on there. Alien underground bases, extraterrestrial bases on Earth, Blue Planet Project.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned Dulce. Dulce has a couple of reports and they described the beings as close to these. They range all from little 2 to 3, 4 foot tall gray aliens to reptilians.
So maybe that's where your caves are coming in.
Well, I mean, there is. I meant to pull that up. Sorry. There is all kinds of caves in the area.
Oh yeah.
If I can find it.
If they hadn't seen that craft, I'd say that was a possibility. These things coming out of the caves, because like you said, Gary, there is a lot of caves in that area, but them seeing that craft is very credible to me. And yeah, it just doesn't make sense, the cave thing to me. I think this is a UFO case.
Okay, here's another one I pulled up. This is kind of more coordinative than the cave thing. Let me hit share here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is share screen. This is from 1955 to 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Every Bigfoot and UFO sighting in the area.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have Mount Vernon over here, Lexington, Manchester. But if you look right along this ridge here, which is Pennington Gap, where is Kingsport? There's a lot of Bigfoot sightings, but there's a lot of UFO sightings also. And it all follows.
That's quite the cluster right there.
Yeah, that's a big cluster, and that's right in the same area. This is kind of zoomed out.
Okay.
This is Hopton. I can't even say it. How do you say that name?
Hopkinsville.
Hopkinsville is like right in here. But
okay, so it's right in that cluster.
Yeah, and I just thought that was interesting as I was digging up stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
There is 12 documentable caves, not right at Hopkinsville. There's caves, but the biggest thing there is mines. there's all kinds of coal mines and everything else there.
Coal mines. Yeah.
The matter of fact, the closest documented cave on the map that I was looking at was the Bell Witch Cavern. But
Okay.
But Fort Campbell is known in itself, and that was the thing too. Is like Nick was saying, I'm coming out of Fort Campbell. Fort Campbell's known to have a lot of caves. We used to do a lot of search and rescue training there, and we would do subterranean. Matter of fact, the Department of the Army's spenunkling training is in Fort Campbell. Used to be. I don't know if it is now. That was years ago. But once again, I really think it. And I'm going to lean towards that it happened with that many people involved.
Yeah.
Love their stories coordinating, and that many people on the investigative side. And that's what was funny, like Nick was saying, that even the reporter stories the next morning coordinated with the law enforcement stories the previous night.
Exactly.
I'm leaning towards it was a, how would we say, UAP.
Yeah, UAP.
And
that's the
not
correct
supposed to say
term.
UFO. We're not supposed to say UFO anymore. It's not politically correct.
UAP, yeah.
UFO, I'm sorry. Come on, really.
Well, I'm in agreement with you, Gary. Something happened that night, and it's not in the line of cryptids. It's more like you said, extraterrestrials, UAP.
The one thing for me, and I'm just speaking off the cuff here, that area of Kentucky and Tennessee, I swear to God, has more diverse, crazy stories about cryptids and everything than any other part of the country. I mean, it's like, even here in Oklahoma, as diverse as our culture is with the Native Americans and everything else, we can pull it down to the big three: Bigfoot, Dogman, and Ghost. Paranormal, some UFO. Yeah. There you have the howler. You've got the goat man, the bear man. You've got the what do they call them, bear squatch. You've got the Batman. You've got
devil monkeys.
The devil monkeys. It's and I don't know. The only way I know how to put it is a lot of my family is from that area, Appalachia background, and of course y'all know I'm very big into our family history.
Yes,
but you could literally have people living 10 miles from each other back in the 18 and 1900s, and even in the early 20s. I hate to say it, and it's a whole different culture over here than it is over here. I mean, you have a church over here that believes one thing and a church over here that believes another thing, and they're so cliquish, and that's where you get a lot of the different interpretations and stories. And when we talked about the Kentucky Howler, we talked about it being a cat and everything, and our biggest consumption or assumption was that it could have been a misidentification. It could have been the same thing going across the board, people just misidentifying it. And in this, I got to thinking about the culture differential of that area. It's not culture, excuse me, subculture of. They're known to have quirky stories, but this does not fit into any of those older genres. You see what I'm saying? This we see a consistency is when you've done it as much as we have, you see a consistency and stuff. This is like completely off in left field. That's the reason I think that it's more UFO. That and with the we've got. Yeah. It's not consistent with the subculture of the area.
Right. Of the area. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
I just ordered up the missing pages from the Blue Planet Project book. I'm going to get it on my Kindle and give it a read tonight.
Wasn't the original Blue Planet Project, wasn't it written, didn't the guy that was one of the big wigs in MUFON, didn't he write that?
They don't even know because the guy disappeared for quite a while. And then he wrote the conspiracy. And he's naming the NSA, no such agency, as a part of that conspiracy to keep things quiet.
I might be thinking of a different book. I'm thinking of the guy that was involved in the original investigation of the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch or the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and the UFO sighting in New York, where they had the UFO sightings and the car got stuck and they was walking out and the Bigfoot followed them. That wasn't Whitehall? Whitehall was the law enforcement. It was
Yeah,
Whitehall
Whitehall
was law enforcement.
Yeah, that was law enforcement where they got killed.
You're thinking of, are you thinking of the Catskills that happened in the Catskills, right?
Some kind of ridge. There's
below the Adirondacks. I think more towards southern New York.
Are you talking, Gary, by any chance you talking about Dr. Greer?
I'm thinking he is. I remember specifically the guy that I'm talking about was involved in he was one of the preliminary people that went in, and they wouldn't let, the law enforcement would not let them in when they had the sighting, and the people seen the Bigfoot at the same time they seen the UFO sightings, and the car got pushed. It's something Ridge. It ain't Ruby Ridge. It's
not Ruby Ridge. No,
I think it's actually. I don't even think it's New York. I think it's northeastern Pennsylvania.
It's near the New York border, kind of.
Yeah. But if I remember right, I think he was kind of involved in some of those obscure. The only reason I'm thinking of it is because I worked for Dave Scott for a while, and he interviewed the guy. The guy was leader of MUFON for years and years. Real nice guy. I think it is who you're talking about, Nick. But I would honestly, if we continue this, and I might do it anyways, I might contact some of them old UFO people that I know of and ask them about this situation and see what they think about it. Yeah. See what they think about it. I mean, there has to be something about it because they made a series, a 2-season series on this. Of course, they never found nothing, but there's got to be something there. And initial documentation, you can't get it. Don't get no better than this. It's just one or two people seeing, oh, I seen something shadowy going through the woods. You got 12 people ranging in age that encountered and I would honestly say engaged these people in battle.
They were seeing detail.
But the floating off that they shoot it and it floats off. One of two things: that's alien or demon, alien or demonic.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Well, it's lucky for them they didn't shoot back.
Yeah,
because evidently their bullets didn't have any effect.
The only other thing that got me thinking in this, and now that I brought that up, I wasn't going to bring it up, but the tracks, they talk about them having 3 toes, and the size is consistent with a lot of physical manifestations of demons.
Yes, it is.
And that's the only other thing that I could think of. And if you go and getting into that route, then we'd have to start getting into the religious background of the people involved, and that'd be kind of hard to do because as long ago as it happened. Folks, you're talking 78 years ago.
78 years ago. Yeah.
But it must be something if we're still talking about it in 2024.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's about all the info I got on it, guys.
Same here. I found same stuff you guys did, and I think we're all in agreement on this one. It's UAP related.
I would lean that way, and I would even, like I was saying, I wouldn't lean towards subcultural issues. I think it's straight across the board. UAP, UFO, alien, extraterrestrial phenomenon. It's more cut and dry to me than Skinwalker Ranch or Stardust Ranch.
Oh God,
right.
There's another thing. Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, we hadn't got to that one yet.
Yeah.
Y'all know that one's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I know it is.
I have sat on that ridge and looked down at that rascal over a couple of ears of a horse many a time. I never knew that that's what I was looking at.
I'll tell you, the only thing this goblin subject did for me is it just added 2 books to my reading.
Yeah.
That I'm going to have to go through, and oh my God. If I were to grab my cam and give you a tour on my left over here, my bookshelf and my one in the back, and the books I haven't put up with since I moved, I haven't put everything out yet because I use it all as reference manuals. You wouldn't believe I've got a L-shaped desk over here and a small bookshelf to the left. full of paperwork and books, and I might have 6 or 7 of them open at one time trying to reference everything. It's just a never ending love of adventure here.
I will say this. Your determination is non-equivocal to me. I see you on Facebook. When I'm on Facebook, you're dedicated to the subject. You're dedicated to it like I am of music. I just. But one thing I did want to say, guys, since we started this back up, I've been doing. It's kind of opened my mind a little bit. I've been doing more geographical research for cryptids instead of just. And we kind of hit Africa, and we hit the Philippines, Indonesia, hit the East. We haven't hit South America yet, and there's some things down.
Oh, that's
you damn right there is.
And what's so funny is that I didn't know it until I started studying a little bit. You talk about documented. That I kind of hate that we had a certain parting of company, because that would have been a person to. But
yeah,
we're not going to get on that. But South America has got. I want to get in on that Titan boa. They say that thing still exists. And they're talking a 60 to 80 foot, where we're talking in Africa where they're seeing 60 and 80 foot snakes. Down there, they're seeing them. They've seen them last year, and buddy, that's a whole lot of note rope.
yeah.
I mean, a 60, 80 foot snake. I mean, how round could it be,
Especially being an anaconda. It's like a Burmese python at 20 foot.
Right.
An anaconda at 20 foot is this big,
Right.
I mean, we're talking monster size thing, like prehistoric beasts.
Absolutely.
I was reading the other day about, I had heard about them from my first wife being from Peru, but the Los Macedos, the gray ones, or what they call the vampires, that's big, big stuff down there, and a lot of it. But if we do get into that, but we still got a lot to cover in North America too. I mean, we have
absolutely.
I think we need to do as much as everybody agrees with us, we do need to do a show on the American jaguar.
Oh yeah,
I think so too.
We've talked about them and being in Kentucky and everything else. Yep. So technically, that's a cryptid because the U.S. government says they do not exist.
Yeah,
and we all
know. Do not exist here, right?
Yeah, we all know they do. I've personally seen them.
Look at Great Britain. I mean, they've had Black Panthers there reported for hundreds of years,
decades, hundreds of years, centuries.
Until 1860, 1870, the North American jaguar ranged from Mexico all the way up into New Jersey.
Yeah.
If you look at the old maps, they ranged all the way up there. And we're still seeing them in Oklahoma. We're seeing them in Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. I mean,
Southern California,
Carolina, Southern California, everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be kind of cool to do a show on that one of these days. But
yeah, I think so too. Well, gents, I think we're just about out of time.
That's about it. We're out.
But everyone, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we will be back next week with another great cryptid. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you next week. Have a good night,
everybody.